Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. On this channel, we talk about problems people face in their day-to-day lives. Let's start with a video.
I had a severe case of food poisoning and sued the company. I won a $400,000 settlement. Not that it was a good thing that I got food poisoning, but the money was worth it. My family and I have been struggling for years. I can't remember a time when we were very comfortable. My siblings and I just learned how to live in difficult situations. So I saw it as hope in a bad situation when this settlement came along. I recently got the money and decided to share $100,000 amongst my immediate family members. That is, my dad, my mom, and two of my siblings. I had a concern that they had never handled this kind of money before, so there was a tendency to splurge it around instead of using it meaningfully. Even though we struggled a lot, they didn't know how to manage finances. I saw this because I have known them all my life. I made everyone sign and agree that they would use the money wisely to prevent this. We outlined what exactly using the money wisely meant. It was okay for them to use some of it to improve their life or standard of living. Still, the major thing I expected was that this could end their financial struggles if they invested or found a way to multiply the money. I believed we were all on the same page until my mom was not following the agreement after about 2 to 3 weeks of giving the money. In fact, she had started to ask me for more money and not for a worthwhile cause. She got a car, bought many clothes, and basically spent the money on herself. Not that any of these things are bad, it was just that it was a significant expense. There was no sign of an investment that she was planning to make or any way to multiply the money. I was seriously disappointed because I didn't think we would have a problem with this since I made everyone sign an agreement. My dilemma is that if I do nothing about it, the others may think that I was bluffing when I said that everyone had to give their money back if one person wasted their share. It is not every day that 4 people get handed $100,000. All my siblings were adults. Our mom gave birth to us when she was very young. I felt terrible that I had to do this to them, but an agreement is an agreement. I had the lawyer who helped with the agreement contact them to return the monies they were given. I didn't want to be the one to get it from them because I thought that I wouldn't be able to do it myself. My lawyer contacted them, and they were furious. They said they would not give it back, but he reminded them that they were legally bound by their signed document. My phone started blowing up because they were all calling me. I didn't answer any of their calls, especially my mom's, because I know what she would say. AITA? I'm basically the problem of the family, the black sheep. Everyone seems to hate me, and no one is on my side even though we all agreed initially. It's frustrating how the tides had turned now. At first, everyone loved me because of my settlement money, and now it's the opposite. I'm the youngest of 3 children from my dad and mom. My elder siblings think that I'm being selfish and have no right to ask for the money back. They have called me all kinds of names and said that I let all the money get to my head, so I think I'm better than the rest. It's quite the contrary here. I'm using my money wisely. I made a couple of investments and I'm taking some courses to improve my skills. Agreed. I also improved my standard of living, but to something that I can maintain and afford. I don't believe that you have to spend a fortune to take care of yourself or enjoy your life. This was our ticket to financial freedom, so it baffles me how lightly they take it. The money is not an issue for me. It's not a case of where I gave people money and I want it back for selfish reasons. I genuinely want the money to be used for meaningful things so that it can multiply and maintain the lifestyle so that they desperately want to live. There was no point spending all of it on trivial things only to go back to square one when the money was finished with no way of getting more. That is very unwise, which is what I want everyone to see. Like I said, it's not about the money. I willingly gave out $100,000 and shared it amongst them. No one forced me to do it. It was solely my decision. Besides, I still have $300,000 to myself, which is more than enough. I'm concerned that this may tear my family apart. That's the thing with having money issues. When it comes to money, everyone wants what works for them only. I decided to face everyone once and for all. I invited my family to my home. When they came, they were all frowning, and you could feel the tension in the air. My dad was the only person that didn't treat me like he hated me. He still gave me a smile here and there. On the side, he called me to tell me that he was proud of me for keeping to my word. The agreement was that everyone would go in for it if anyone misused the money. He told me that he warned my mom, but she didn't listen, and he would understand if my decision was final. He also asked me to think about reconsidering and giving everyone another chance. I didn't want to be nice to them for how they treated me at that time. They were angry at me when they were the ones that broke the rule. They should be annoyed with my mom instead of me. I was not the enemy here. I just wanted to ensure that the money was used correctly. I heard my father and I knew that he made a lot of sense, but I didn't give in. I wanted all the money returned and they had a few hours left to do it. When we went back to meet everyone, they all became quiet when I came in. I asked them why they hadn't sent back the money because we had an agreement and they broke it. If they had their way and my dad wasn't there, I'm sure that they would have beat me up, my mom included. I realized that I had made a mistake inviting them. Maybe I should have called instead. Having them all together was like having an angry mob charging at me, which made me more upset. My mom never admitted that she was wrong, and none of my sisters did as well. I told them that they had signed an agreement, and if they didn't pay back by evening that day, I would sue them. At that point, I didn't care anymore, and they could do worse. I considered what my dad said, but wanted to see how they would react to the meeting. I didn't have to share my money with them. They returned the money, and it came up to almost half, which was about $50,000. If my family said that was what was left, I'd take it. Ideally, they were supposed to return everything, but I'll let it be. Many of the opinions I got said that I was the AH, and that if I gift people something, I don't have the right to dictate what they do with it. I understand that, and it is true, but I don't believe that is happening here. I never told them it was a gift. You can think of it more like an investment. The only return I wanted was that they did something tangible with it to become financially stable. Wanted them to multiply the money, not for me, but for them. Instead of just giving it to them, I did it this way because I know who they are and what they think. At the sight of money, they go wild and use it carelessly. I have seen this over the years, with all of them starting from my mom. This time, I wanted to help them help themselves. If they had handled the situation correctly, I wouldn't have asked them to return it. It would have just been a good threat. I would rather give the money to someone who would make good use of it than give it to people who could have lost it all in the next few months. Amongst my immediate family members, my dad is the only sane one. He invested the money in his company. He'd been trying to improve his business for years, but he didn't have the funds. I expected all of them to do this instead of trying to live a celebrity lifestyle that they couldn't sustain. It's been a week now. I haven't spoken to my siblings. They sent me horrible text messages and said that they were ashamed that I was their sister. They also said they do not want anything to do with me ever again. On the other hand, my mom didn't say anything since the day that they were at my house. She realized it was her fault, but she was too proud to admit it. At least she made one good investment, the car that she bought. They each got $25,000 out of my mom's share. She only returned $3,000. It's clear to everyone that I wasn't just being stubborn or wicked. There was nothing that she could show except the car, and it was not even paid for entirely. She has to pay a car note every month. I wonder how she would have been able to do that. Maybe get an extra job? I literally gave them a ticket out of poverty and struggles, but they didn't appreciate it. Like I said before, it's not about the money itself. I didn't need it, so I decided to give it to my dad, who was the one that made good use of his share. It was almost $50,000 that I received, so I topped it up to $50,000 and gave it to him. He was so excited and thanked me a lot. My mom and siblings were jealous, but I didn't care. In the end, they would still benefit from his business if it did well. NTA, you had an agreement and they faltered. It doesn't matter if they were your family members. As you said, I also would rather give the money to someone who would make good use of it. YTA, I believe that you let the money get into your head. If you really wanted to give them money, even with their tendency to misuse it, you would have. You can't dictate how grown-ass people use their money, especially your mother. That is so wrong.
Next story.
My son is 18, still pretty much a baby and wild as a buck. He's a lot like his dad in that sense. Multiple times I've caught him drinking, lying about his whereabouts, and sneaking out. He's come home so drunk that he's just puked everywhere. He's been in a couple of fights at school and got suspended for them as well. His dad thinks everything he does is absolutely hilarious. He has a very boys will be boys mentality, and I hate that. I have 2 other girls with my current husband, and I don't allow them to act like that, and I won't allow my son to either. Well, prom night happened last weekend, and I feared my son would act out. I patted him down before he left and sent him on his way to pick up his girlfriend. The only thing that comforted me about prom was that I did feel like his girlfriend was sweet and respectable. I've known her since she was little and had high opinions of her. I had hoped this girl would keep him in line for prom, but I wasn't naive to his antics. Prom came and went, and I had my son FaceTime me at his dad's house to prove he wasn't at an after party, and did a drive-by an hour later to make sure his car was still parked there. The problem arose around 5 a.m. that morning when I went for a jog. I changed my route this time so I could go by his dad's house. To my disbelief, I saw his girlfriend's car in the driveway. By this time, his dad had already left for work. I rang the doorbell until my son came and answered. He had obviously just woken up, and I said, "I know your girlfriend is here. Let me in." He tried to block the door, but I told him I would call her parents if he didn't move. He kept saying, "Please don't talk to her, Mom." But I wasn't going to let him mess this girl's life up, as he was trying to do with his, and his dad did mine. It was obvious that his girlfriend had spent the night based on her appearance. I let my disappointment in her be known and told her I thought that she was a nice girl, but she wasn't compatible with my son. He seems to be a bad influence to those he's around and has some issues he needs to work on. I also told her that if she wasn't careful, she'd end up pregnant and alone because he's really no different than his father. I told my son he was grounded when he got home, but he hasn't been home since. I got a harsh text from my son's dad later, calling me an AH for what I said to the girl. He said that I made son's girlfriend cry after I left, and that I made him cry to his dad because I embarrassed him and he can't figure out why his mom hates him. I don't hate my son, but he needs harsh love. He's been off the wall since he was in 8th grade. His dad constantly enabling him behind my back and thinking that this behavior from him is funny is not helping. I worry about his future if his behavior doesn't change and that he's going to knock this girl up and leave her as well. His dad thinks I'm an AH, and my son only texts me to bawl me out. AITA for what I did? ETA. When I said I hoped his girlfriend would keep him in line, I didn't mean I expected her to discipline him or anything like that. What I meant was that when he's around her, he doesn't seem to ever act wild like he can be, because she's not a wild girl, and I assume he wants her to like him. Also, when I was speaking to his girlfriend, I wasn't cruel, but I wanted her to be prepared for things that she could expect if she got pregnant. YTA, your son and his girlfriend are legally adults, and they can spend the night together if they want to. Calling what you did, telling her the truth about him, shows your warped perception. She knows exactly who he is and seems to like it. Stay out of it.
Next story.
So I, 35, female, am a single mother and my daughter is 10 years old. The father was never in the picture. I moved into my neighborhood for almost 7 years now, and there weren't any serious issues. Most of my neighbors are friendly and my daughters are friends with their children. Well, I have this one neighbor. Let's call her Teresa. And she's a problematic neighbor. The neighbors don't find her very pleasing to be around. The thing is, She seems to have something against me. My daughter is friendly enough, so she likes to approach other kids to make friends. She tries to be friends with Teresa's son, but he started crying, and Teresa told her to stay away from her son, which I find harsh. My daughter felt bad about it, but I said it's okay and to just leave Teresa's son alone. Teresa would always show up at my house unannounced, eat my snacks, and even took my daughter's sweets from the kitchen. I confronted her about it, but she said that her house is far away. Oh, not to mention, she stole my favorite perfume, which I sold my liver for. Not just kidding. Well, it's a bit pricey, but I've been using this perfume since I was in high school. I didn't want to confront her about it and had a hard time letting it go. And she asked me, where's the father and why isn't he here? Which I don't mind people asking, and I told her he's out of the picture. She then kept asking me why. Now, I don't like to share that. I keep telling her to stop, and then she said, I just want to know what kind of a woman you are, and laughs about it. Nosy. Then she also accused me of seducing her husband. Now, number one, I have never, ever talked to him alone. Yes, we did meet in the park because my daughter wanted to go there, and somehow the husband and the son were there as well. I kept the conversation as short as possible because he made me uncomfortable. There's some places we run into, but that's it. Anyway, when I arrived to the school, my daughter is in, and I saw her being upset and on the verge of tears. She ran to me and hugged me tight. I asked her what happened, and she told me that Teresa's son told her that he's so lucky to have a father unlike him. My daughter said Teresa also joined and said that her father doesn't want her, and that's why he's not here with her. I wasn't mad. I was furious. That day, I went to Teresa's house and told her that she had no right to tell my daughter what she said earlier. She said, truth hurts. She needs to know the truth, and proceed to tell me how lucky she is that she's not a single mother. I then said that you're focusing on me too much. You didn't know what your husband has been doing. And she asked what I meant. I then told her that while I was at the grocery store, I saw her husband buying condom and beers with a woman in his arm, which is true. Her face was red. She accused me of lying. I said, truth hurts. You need to know the truth. When I left, I told some of my friends, and they told me I'm a bit harsh for that. I mean, I need to help Teresa put her eyes on her husband. AITA? NTA. Why did you let this woman come to your place? I'd stop talking to her.